says we're going live. Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Okay.
It says it is, but it's okay. Now it's.
Do you want me to pull
Okay.
up our site?
All right, I see us.
Do you want me to edit the site, or do you want to do it?
Hold on, okay. We'll put that off to the side. Yeah, do you see the link or like where it's
the
embedded?
YouTube link? I can click that and see. I didn't know if we could embed it, but let's. Yeah, live now. It shows that. Do you want to put that actual link?
See the link or like where it's embedded?
Oh, I'm gonna close it. Do you want to use the actual link there?
No, I think we can do the embed.
Okay. Do you want me to do it, or you got it?
I got it.
Okay.
Site for edits. Okay. This is gonna be a problem because I linked our Facebook thing, so I'll just post the link to YouTube on Facebook as well, so that people who are expecting it there can get it there. Boop. And that. And add the thing for YouTube. There it is. Okay. YouTube. Okay. Drag it up top here. And I think I can just, oh, maybe I should add some text. Live from Maker Faire, 5/23/2020. Publish.
Let me know after that publish goes through.
All right, it went through. Let me know how that looks.
All right, I'm going to pull it up here. Yep, I see it right there on the main screen. And if I click it, it works.
Okay, so then we just need a monitor.
Yep, and then Ray is asking about our notes. I will send that to him.
Yeah, he should have access to it.
Yep. Where is he asking those? Did he ask me on text? Oh, he did on text. Oof. All right.
Videos on Facebook. I don't think I need this open. I think I can close that. Okay. And it should be now if I go to the site to check it repeated. Yeah.
Yep, it looks good.
Cool. Okay. That was a lot easier than I thought.
Worked pretty well. Is there a way to be able to tell the viewers?
Tell the viewers what?
Not tell them, but like see what the viewers. Is there a way to be able to tell? Oh, okay. Just want to see if there's so 0 watching. So if we can, it's a way for us to tell when people sign on.
How do we do that?
You have to pull it up. If you pull it up in YouTube, so if you click the word YouTube in the actual, like, once you're playing it, if you click the word YouTube, it'll show.
Oh.
Like,
okay, there we go. And then people can say something down here. So I just have to mute that video then.
And so are we going to look for people to comment down there for questions?
Yeah, we'll have them comment down there. We should post on Twitter. 2 minutes left.
I don't see a. Oh, you can. There's chat. All right, good.
Is there do you have Twitter? Can we like at Maker Faire and say something about how we're about to go live or something?
Yeah. You want me to just post the actual YouTube link for that?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. You want me to post it from our account?
Sure. Yeah,
Not golfing.
Let me close some things out here. All right, look at us, technology. Not bad, right?
Not bad at all. Let's see.
Really happy with how that all turned out. Could have been a lot worse.
All right, so I just posted that. Oops.
Yes, why is, okay, Sarah's asking for the link. I'll link it again. There we go. All right, I sent Sarah the link. Waiting for Sarah and Ray. All right, Sarah Rice is in. And
hello, Sarah.
Made it.
Perfect.
Right. And we've got.
And I think
yeah, I think we're
we're waiting. Yeah, we're waiting for Ray, but he can jump on and I guess get us going when he can hop in and get going when he does. I'll retweet that. There we go. All right. Well, hi everybody. Thanks for joining our, I think, Maker Faire live stream. I think. So yeah, we've got a lovely talk here planned for you, and I'm gonna let I think it's Sarah Rice is gonna kick us off. We're gonna talk a little bit about where we came from, what we're doing now at the Illinois PPE network, and where we're headed. Maybe introduce yourselves too. I'm Jay Margulis. I'm from DePaul University. I am one of the organizing committee members for the Illinois PPE network. We've made over, or in the process of fabricating, well over 100,000 face shields now, and delivered them 100 institutions around Illinois. You guys want to introduce yourselves too?
Yeah, I know. I'm Jeff Solon. I teach computer science and making, and run a maker lab called the LT Maker Lab at Lane Tech High School here in Chicago, and one of the organizing members for Illinois PPE Network. And I'll share some more information here coming up, but I'll pass it down to Sarah.
Yeah, I'm Sarah Rice. I just graduated with my doctorate in physical therapy from Northwestern's PT program, and I'm on the organizing committee of the Illinois PPE as well. And Ray.
And I'm Ray Dukeson. I'm an industrial designer and member of the organizing committee and representative from the Nation of Makers and one of our big local hackerspaces, Pumping Station 1.
All right, Sarah, you want to get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. And so our efforts started, and this is one of the strengths of the whole operation, is that we didn't sit there and think for a week about what we were going to do. Jay is the one who really started it, and he just did it. He literally got in his minivan and drove downtown. In the minivan on the way downtown, he called my husband, Eric Landau, who's a physics professor at DePaul, and said, we're going to get the 3D printers out of the maker spaces and see what we can do with them, because there's a great need for face shields. And Eric is the DePaul faculty member, but I was the one that was the avid 3D printer in our family. And so he got me. And while Jay was the Idea Realization Lab has 2 locations, while Jay was rating the first one, we rated the second, and got the 3D printers, got a design, just started making stuff, called all our friends, shipped 3D printers to people. And that's how the node structure evolved, is we realized, hey, we should be social distancing and seeing as few people as possible. And the way to do that is to have us making stuff, send it directly. Another person making stuff, send it directly. And so that is how we started with distributed fabrication, as we call it now. We realized very quickly that if one node shut down because someone got sick or exposed, it wouldn't take down our entire operation. And this is where we were very different from existing industry. And we were also able to iterate as we went with 3D printing. And so that's where Jeff Solin's design comes in. And I think I'm passing it off to Jeff because the 3D printing got us going really fast. And then Jeff's design took over from there.
So I'll try and keep it brief on this, but we I had an idea about designing something that would be able to be produced faster than the 3D printing. It was great. We have lots of 3D printers that were in action, but in reality, it was taking a couple hours at least to produce a face shield between the 3D printed bracket, and then you also had to source a few materials, so elastic or rubber bands, the filament, and the 3D printed part, and then the transparency for the face shield. So I had access to a lab for a little bit and was iterating on a flat pack face shield that was able to be cut out of one 20 mil piece of PETG. So just basically thin, clear plastic, and was able to get the time for that down to about 1.5 minutes, which was the start of what we were doing with this particular design. So what we were able to do to iterate so quickly was through the Illinois PPE network and connections actually from Sarah and a friend of hers. Just a lot of this has just been like grassroots networking kind of stuff. And I was put in touch with a doctor at University of Chicago Hospital named Dr. Juan Albin. And he came by my house and picked up a prototype of my idea, brought it back to the hospital, got it in the hands of other doctors, tested it out, called me that night and said, can we make these changes? I said, absolutely. I made those changes and made a new version. He came by the next day. He picked up a few copies of the new version, brought it back to the doctors, ended up having about 15 to 20 doctors, he said, that were reviewing the design, and then called me that night, made changes. And we did this for a week. So over the course of about a week, we went from version 1, which was on April 1st, I believe, to around April 9th was version 8. And it was as close to production ready as you could get. There were still things that could be improved on it, things that could be changed, but we had to reach a point where we were saying, okay, let's make this. So that's what we ended up doing. There were specific design constraints that were the focus behind what I was doing. We have constraints that we talk about within our network, and we have constraints that we talk about within designs that we're working on. And the particular design really had 4 things. Sourcing a single material, so one plastic, that's it, and being able to be like made and done, or just one material, actually sourcing one material. 90% production and 10% user to complete. So having everything ready to go, get it off to the user. User just snaps the pieces out, assembles it in 30 seconds, and it's ready to go. Being able to mass sterilize, so we could dip everything into a sterilization solution, or the hospital could, and sterilize many things at once, and then mass shipping, or being able to take advantage of the fact that this was a very flat sort of sheet-like product that could be delivered and then assembled into a more 3-dimensional product on site. So those were the design principles behind that design. And I can put it in the chat, but it's at solinfaceshield.com, and the plans are all available for free under Creative Commons licensing. And we've worked with people actually now all around the world, in different parts of the world, to get them the plans so they can make shields locally for their own healthcare workers or other people that need them. So I'm going to we're going to move into where we are with stuff right now, what our sort of status quo is. And I'm going to hand it off to Jay, and he'll take it from here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stay mostly on script here, but I might change it up a little because we don't have a lot of people who are going to be asking us questions. So I think our Q&A section is going to be short, and I want to make sure Ray gets a chance to say a couple things too, because that's where we plan to have everybody else jump in for the Q&A. So Yeah, so where we're at right now, I think the first important thing to note is, this started as a local effort and it'll always be a local effort, but in anticipation of other individuals potentially wanting to replicate our model and wanting to help them be able to do that, we created a larger nonprofit now called the Distributed Fabrication Network, which is tongue twister for me apparently. And the Distributed Fabrication Network exists to, build things outside of just PPE for our local area, but also to support folks who have questions about how to do things. In fact, we run now a weekly town hall Friday at 4:30 CST, and we post that live on our Facebook page, which you should be able to find through our website at illinoisppe.org. So if you're from a different state and you have questions about what we're doing, that's a place you can go to find out, and you can ask us questions during those town halls. Happy to help you, and we're happy to talk to you even outside of that. So the second thing that we're working on is face shields. We've got a pretty decent handle on in our region, and while we're still shipping them out, we're not doing that as, the requests aren't coming in as heavily anymore. And so we're shifting away to mask frames. And I think Jeff might have some more to talk about that in a little bit. But I think the interesting thing about mask frames is it's our first move into other things. And these masks and mask frames require materials, whether it's cloth or the other things that we're designing for. And there are makers that we're working with who might need those materials, or there are people who need the end products that we're creating that might need them. And I was hoping I could kick it over to Ray a little bit, because Ray's been doing a lot of our work with getting things out there, with getting materials and end product to the people who need them. And maybe Ray, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's certainly an important part of the network is distribution, and in addition to kind of connect together the 3D printer fetishists that got all this started, like that kind of thing happened all over the place. But the moving to the production of the things rather than the design of things was one of the things that got me interested in this. I thought somebody made the comment, I was like, now, is every industrial designer now obligated to make their own face shield design? It's like, well, no. Getting into production and into volume production was the most important thing. Jeff's design was awesome because it nailed that. But as far as distribution goes, that's just another one of the things that any volunteer can do. So for the people that don't have a 3D printer, they can participate by being a sewist. For people that don't sew, they can participate by driving things around. I've got a network of volunteers, largely military veterans, that truly understand the nature of a courier mission, and they know how to make sure missing elements and the information needed, how to correct the information if it's wrong, and how to get it done, and also how to report back, letting us know that it's done, and we can cross it off our list. You're muted, Jay.
So, yep. So one of the last things that I want to mention about where we're at now is, like Jeff said, we've got these design principles. We're working on applying them to the mask frame, and I think Jeff might have something to tell. I don't know how much he can right now, but something to say about that. And those design principles will be applied, I mean, across the board with the things that we make. So, Jeff, I want to hand it off to you for the where we're headed, and then maybe what we can do is maybe just talk about some common questions, frequently asked questions, if you will, for the last couple minutes of this panel after we get through the where we're headed.
Sure. So there are a couple tenets of our organization. One is to work locally as much as we can. And what we're trying to do when we can is get these design ideas out to local institutions or local organizations so that, well, one thing is that we can put people to work or help people do their job. So there's an example of this would be with the flat pack design for the face shield. It started out by plans that could be laser cut, but the idea that what we wanted to do with it was manufacture at a larger scale, how to scale up from that. So that's what we've been sort of doing. We've almost been incubating ideas, iterating on them, using our distributed network to be able to produce and get them out. And then we find a way to scale it up. And we had a die maker who I would be remiss not to mention on here is JC Marovich from Triangle Dies and Supplies. They're in Batavia, Illinois. Got connected again just through this sort of grassroots networking thing that's been happening. And turned out that his daughter's a nurse and he wanted to be able to help out. So the way he was able to help was to, for free and through his own time, created a die, a stamp die. So for those that aren't familiar with that process, and I sure wasn't before this, just think of it as a big cookie cutter. And so there's a metal cookie cutter that stamps out the flat pack design, and it can be done in much higher quantity in a faster speed. So it ends up being about 1 per second. So they can do 3,600 an hour. What we've been, and he's offered this, which is great, is we've had people reach out from other states where they're saying, hey, we're out in Denver and we want to get this done. How do we do this? If they have the money together for the plastic or can find a way to get donations to get the plastic, then JC has been willing to talk to anybody that needs it to connect them with die makers and manufacturers in their local area, and then be able to make in quantity where they are for their own community. The other thing that we've been looking at a little bit is how to be disruptive in the market. So if you looked on Amazon, you might find a face shield we've seen them as high as even $18 and more, which is way above cost. The cost that we're finding it is to make one flat pack face shield it ranges between $1 and $2. We have around $1. It depends on what's being donated, and if you really look at the cost of the plastic, we're seeing around $1 to $1.50, somewhere in that range. So what we've talked about is how can what models should we be looking at to either make them at cost and get them out to people? So if people can all of a sudden buy them at cost, then maybe Amazon can't sell them at price gouging prices, so that we can actually have an impact on the market by offering a product that people need to help keep them safe at cost, or even maybe double the cost, let's say, and we did it at $3 a shield, which is still way below, and it's sort of a buy one, give one. And we could keep ourselves sustainable and be able to continue to make more things and have the money to do that and put it directly back into the project. So that's kind of what we've looked at, everything from getting things made offshore to, I mean, like ideally we want to make things locally, and what price model works the best to be able to pull that off. So we've before I'm going to hand it off to Sarah in a second, but before I do that, I want to emphasize that we have another sort of core value, I would say, of being transparent. So we're trying to do everything as open and honest as we possibly can. None of us have made a dime off of this. We've been proud of that. All the donation money that's come in has gone directly towards materials and supplies for our network so that people can make PPE and get it out to people that need it. We're looking at ways that we could potentially employ people to help make PPE for us, even within our network, so that we can pay people and give them work, and then use that to produce PPE and get it out to people as well. So it's all things that we're tossing around. We're doing the best we can, and we're always up for ideas too. So I would throw out there that if anybody wanted to contact any of us to share their ideas or help, you can not only go to our website, which is illinoisppe.org, but you can also email us at inquiries@illinoisppe.org. So I'm going to hand it off to Sarah, who's going to talk about some of the local needs, and I'm going to give it over to her.
So one thing that I think was a hallmark to our effort's success is that we started out making face shields because there was an immediate local need. And what we did with our distributed fabrication network is we began rapid fabrication, and we knew that the products that we were fabricating were not perfect. Those 3D printed shields were not perfect. We began just with Prussia Research's design that had been approved by the Czech Republic Ministry of Health. It had 4 holes in it, and then Richie Bine, a Chicago native of 3D printed shields for Swedish, designed a 3-hole punch version. And we referred to that as the Swedish shield and printed it for a while. Then there was an NIH approved design that came online that had a little bit more of a shield here, and we iterated to that. All the while, we were printing shields. And so one thing that I would like to stress to the community is that in times of great need like this, rapid fabrication is actually perhaps more important than rapid prototyping. And I'd say, regardless of the imperfections in your product, get it out there, get the real feedback from the people who use it, and then iterate as you go. This is the way to address an immediate need. And realizing that our distributed fabrication network had this strength, we then decided, well, I mean, we can make PPE. We started out with face shields. We're looking now into masks and gowns, but we could make other useful objects that are immediately needed in this manner as well. And in doing so, as Jeff mentioned, kind of keep the supply and demand chain a little bit smoother for items that suddenly become needed. And this is sort of where the distributed fabrication network is headed with this. And I'm gonna pass it over to Jay to finish us off by discussing about a little bit more about the high level philosophy of the organization moving forward as we go into other items besides PPE.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna ask Ray if you could start thinking of some commonly asked things if you want to be the arbiter for the closing section when we talk about things that we're hearing in the field and things that we hear people talking, and then we can all pitch in too. But back to what Sarah was saying about the philosophy and really the philosophy that has been the guiding principles that has informed the guiding principles for our organization. Comes out of the circumstances, and so the circumstances are that 2 months ago none of us thought we would still be doing this, because when we first began we thought, well, we'll make some things and then the supply chain and manufacturers will catch up and we won't have to do this anymore. And what's come to being is that the supply chain and manufacturers and quite frankly the leadership all around us has not caught up and addressed the needs that we have, and we still feel that we're the best equipped to do it. And that's really rooted in this idea of localism, of taking care of your own, but also of like network localism. So while we're taking care of our own, once we do that, we take what we've got and we share it with the regions around us to keep them healthy as well and safe. And that's worked very well with our community members, from folks from the Museum of Science and Industry, Chicago Public Schools, Chicago Public Libraries, all sorts of other huge institutions, churches. Jackie Moore's. Somebody tell me what's Jackie's church network named again?
Chicago Knights.
No, Chicago Knights is the robotics club.
Yeah.
What was that, Jeff?
I was saying Chicago Knights is a robotics team. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But my point is, we've got all of these local organizations, and on top of that, we've got local companies, Bosch, Newark, like Jeff mentioned, Triangle Diet and Supplies, that have all pitched in as well and really helped us and helped take care of the regions that their companies or these nonprofit institutions or these other groups, maker spaces, are a part of. And so Bill Gates had a talk a couple weeks ago, and he called this the first pandemic. And as it's proven out with the way that the supply chain is broken down and major manufacturing hasn't been able to address our issues in a meaningful way, if this is the first, how do we address this going forward? And I think very, very strongly the way that we do that is we think locally and we take care of the people around us, and then we move outward from there and we take care of everybody else too. Being distributed, that has a lot of benefits, as everybody here has already touched on, from keeping people from all getting sick because we're working in a distributed manner, to being able to help with overflow. So if one area isn't having as much of a problem, you can use the leftover materials that you have to aid your neighbors, and so on and so on. And so we rely on each other as a community more than we rely on big companies to take care of our problems now. And I think that that's a really empowering thing for everybody. So I want to kick it over to Ray. And Ray, maybe if you want to lead our last 6 minutes of what are we hearing out in the field? What are some commonly asked questions? And what other thoughts do you have?
I can think of some right off the top of my head. Are we not facilitating a question and answer period then?
We are, but there's no questions in the chat right now.
There's no questions in the chat right now. Okay, so some really common things that we've heard again and again from people in the field, especially volunteers joining us, is one of the common, well, I won't say complaints, common questions. Somebody's got a 3D printer. They realize 3D printers are needed. They start 3D printing the 3D printed parts, and they're stuck because they don't have the clear plastic parts or the elastic parts. And they're wondering, how do I get this stuff? And the answer is, you don't need to. As a volunteer in a distributed production network, you need to do the thing that you can do. And then hopefully you count on your partner for some other things. And the partners can be invisible partners. It's kind of like when you play euchre, you go in and you always count on your partner for a point. You don't have to plan it ahead of time. So if you've got a 3D printer, 3D print some stuff. If you don't have the elastic, don't worry about it. Somebody else will solve that. If it becomes a systemic problem of locating a missing part, then you get your heads together and you solve that too. But by focusing on what you can do rather than what you can't, things go a lot smoother. So that was a very common thread. A lot of people think they have to do it all on their own. That's the basic problem there. They think they're alone in this, but when you're in it with all of us together, we can support each other's weak points and enhance each other's strong points. Things work much better. Another common question was the endless debate about the minutia of stuff that's out of your control. Like, will the hospitals take this? Or what's the decontamination procedure? And honestly, if you're just 3D printing the frames, you don't need to worry about that. Somebody else will be doing the decontamination procedure, either in our network, it'll be somebody at a hub who's collecting hundreds of these pieces and decontaminating them. And the end users will have that shit figured out. What might be important is letting someone know the materials you've used, because that might be a different process for an ABS frame versus a PLA frame. But at the very beginning of this process, there were an awful lot of people naysaying and telling me or asking each other or stopping each other from doing things because they said, oh, no, don't do that. The hospitals will never take it. That one's not approved. And production won out over prudence in that case, because when things are when there's a dire need for things, they will get used. And besides, the next thing is, will the hospitals take this? Or the follow-on question to that was often, which design should I make? Okay. And again, if you're a 3D printer, let me I'm sure you'll be. If you're a 3D printer and you're trying to make a face shield and you're wondering which of the 475 frames that I've heard of should I make, the right answer is just pick one for that first one, because that first one's not going to turn out anyway. You're going to be leveling your bed. You're going to be dealing with filament problems. It's probably not going to turn out. And then when you do have one done, then you're going to try to put the plastic front on it, forward it through the system and get feedback that way. But the important thing for a participant, for an entry-level participant who is doing the 3D printing, and that's not the case for everybody now, is just to get started on something, make a product, hold it up, get feedback, and then the likelihood if somebody made some goofy variant of a face shield frame that had 18 holes and fit a watermelon but not a real human head, somebody would correct them at that point, and then they can get on into production. So a lot of these things sort themselves out when you associate yourself with others in the network. The right answers come to you, but the basic thing, we want you to hit the ground running, run fast and run hard, but it is a marathon, not a sprint. So then there's the other thing. People are sometimes wearing themselves out by trying to do too much, and it is okay to just do the bit that you can. We've been able to supply people with filament, with printers themselves sometimes, but definitely with filament, and with transportation to move things back and forth. Whichever part of the puzzle is missing to somebody, there's likely somebody next to you that can fill that in.
Ray, I'm going to jump on one thing you said real quick as we close out here. So you were talking about getting up and just doing it. And that's been a big part of what we've been doing as a network. And so I wanted to not spin off that a little bit, but as a teacher, an educator with my students, I talk about iteration all the time. And this has been an example, like I really hate the phrase real world. So I never use the phrase real world with my students because they're in their own real world and might be different than mine, but I find that statement to be generally insulting. But it was a real example of where rapid iteration, rapid prototyping was important to happen and get going on and not wait around for. And so like Ray's saying, I've never designed a face shield before. I have zero experience. Some people would say I have no business playing in that space at all. Why would I even be over there? I'm not a professional designer. I'm just a computer science teacher. But I had an idea, and what I did was I just tried it and I made it, and it was not right. And that's expected. The version 1 of anything is never the right version, especially if it's the first thing you ever make. And so I made it. And then thanks to Sarah and connections and working with that doctor, I was able to get it in the hands of the doctor. So a really simple, quick example was I figured, hey, I've got a laser cutter bed. I can make the shield really long, and really long sounds really protective. So I thought, let's make it really long. And now the doctor's protected better. And I was wrong because I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's okay. So I got it to the doctor, and the doctor said, we can't have it be that long because if we lean down and we're intubating somebody, then the shield will bump into our chest and it'll knock the shield off. So I had to shorten it. And I don't know that problem because I don't deal in that problem, and I'm not a face shield maker. And I remember I'm just a computer science guy. So, so part of the point, well, not part of the point, the whole point is just make it and do it, and then find out what you need to change, and then make those changes and keep doing that. And we did what might take in industry months and months and months, and within a week of just talking back and forth to somebody, got something that is clearly been production ready, has been proven to be production ready, and it is being produced.
Yeah.
If you painted around it, would never have happened. It's like the case for just make it, ship it, and then and throw it, run it up the flagpole and see salutes. Cutting off the bottom edge or the top edge of your face shield is no big deal, and I'm sure that the doctors were free to take a pair of ER shears and trim it, and then they'd probably measure it and tell you what length they like. But that was an easy problem to solve.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanna add one quick thing in here as we're wrapping up. One of my kids' favorite books is "Oh, the Places You'll Go," and there's a part in "Oh, the Places You'll Go." It's a Dr. Seuss book. They talk about the waiting place where everybody's just waiting. Everybody's waiting for something to happen or waiting in a line. And I think that's the age-old kind of lesson that's at the crux of this is there's plenty of time while you're doing things to be thinking about things. And in fact, when you are doing things, you're thinking through making them. And so rather than thinking about or talking about, we're doing, and we're not getting stuck in the waiting place. We're thing makers, and we're as a result able to help our communities immediately and iterate on those things for the long term to help the community as well. And I think that's really powerful because there are a lot of organizations out there that are old and that are used to having power and the resources that they've had that are still stuck in the waiting place right now, and we're helping our communities in the meantime. And I think going forward, that's going to be the big shift that we see happening.
Yeah, it's not always the best thing, but it's the thing getting done. So it's better than the thing that's not getting done. So you just get up and do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think we are 2 minutes over.
Yeah. So Sarah, did you want to add anything, or should we close it up? Or
oh, you guys did a great job. You said everything I wanted to say is get out there and make stuff. Don't just design, make it.
Yeah.
Put it on somebody's head, see what it's like.
All right.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching this either now or later on. And if you have any questions, IllinoisPPE.org, our information's out there, and you can get to us and join our town halls every Friday, 4:30 p.m. Information's on our
Central
Facebook
time.
page and website.
4:30 Central, yeah.
4:30 Central. Yeah.
Central time.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye, everyone.